In June 1941, the Panzer III and Panzer IV formed Germany's armored backbone, competent, well-crewed, mechanically reliable machines. Their standard anti-tank weapon, the Pak-36, had been in service since 1936. Even the newer 50mm Pak-38 could only penetrate the T-34 from the flanks or rear at ranges under 500 meters. General Heinz Guderian, commander of Panzer Group II, reported the technical superiority of Soviet armor in an urgent dispatch to Berlin after encountering Colonel Mikhail Katakov's 4th Tank Brigade near Mtsensk. Then came the escalation. Inside the Henschel assembly plant in Kassel, each Tiger I required roughly 300,000 man-hours to complete, 100 times the production cycle of the T-34. The Tiger's 88mm gun could penetrate 100 millimeters of armor at 1,000 meters. Its own frontal armor measured 100 millimeters thick. The unit cost reached 250,000 Reichsmarks. Total Tiger I production between 1942 and 1944, 1,347 units. The Panther, Germany's answer to the T-34, debuted at Kursk in July 1943. Of the 200 committed, mechanical failures disabled half within 2 days. Germany built tanks for duels. The Eastern Front wasn't a duel, it was a flood. On paper, the Tiger was unbeatable. One-on-one, it probably was. The Soviets had no intention of fighting one-on-one. Between June and December 1941, the Red Army lost over 20,000 tanks, more than Germany's entire annual production, and roughly comparable to the combined output of the major Western powers in the same months. Most Soviet armor was obsolete. T-26 light tanks, BT-7 cavalry tanks. Scattered among them were roughly 1,200 T-34s, of which only several hundred to perhaps 900 had reached frontline units, dispersed in small packets among mechanized corps. The T-34's 76.2mm gun could penetrate 60 millimeters of steel at 1,000 meters, outranging every German tank gun in June 1941. Yet this advantage evaporated in execution. Only a small minority of Soviet tanks carried radios. Most T-34 commanders relied on signal flags while simultaneously serving as gunner, loader, and tactical decision-maker in a cramped two-man turret. Many crews went into combat after roughly a week of rush training. German Panzer crews typically had several months. If you're interested in how wars are actually decided by logistics, math, weapons, and doctrine, subscribe now and turn on notifications. Let's continue. At Mtsensk, Katakov employed ambush tactics from wooded terrain, inflicting heavy losses. Various accounts mention around a dozen tanks in one ambush and additional vehicles destroyed over several days, then withdrew before encirclement, a tactical anomaly in 6 months of armored catastrophe. The problem wasn't the tank, it was everything else. No radios, poorly trained crews, suicidal tactics. The question, build something better than the Tiger, or build something sufficient by the tens of thousands? They chose the flood. In March 1940, Chief designer Mikhail Koshkin personally drove 2 prototypes 2,850 kilometers from Kharkov to Moscow through mud and snow to prove the design before Soviet leadership. The journey gave him pneumonia. He died on September 26, 1940, at age 42. He never saw what his tank became. His sacrifice validated 3 revolutionary design choices that would define Soviet armored warfare. The first innovation centered on armor geometry, 60-degree sloped frontal plates that effectively doubled protection compared to vertical armor of equivalent thickness, forcing incoming shells to penetrate approximately twice the nominal 45mm thickness through deflection angles. German shells calculated to penetrate flat armor ricocheted off angles. Simple geometry defeating expensive metallurgy. The second breakthrough adapted American engineer J. Walter Christie's suspension system, pairing large-diameter road wheels with 500mm wide tracks that distributed 26.5 tons across Soviet terrain. Suspension enabled cross-country speeds approaching 25 kilometers per hour, allowing the T-34 to keep moving in mud and deep snow where German tanks bogged down. The third critical element emerged from the Kharkiv diesel factory. The V-234 engine, a 38.8-liter V-12 aluminum block power plant generating 500 horsepower at 1,800 RPM. Diesel fuel ignited at significantly higher temperatures than gasoline, reducing catastrophic fires when armor penetration occurred. The V-2 consumed practically anything: aviation kerosene, captured German benzene, low-quality distillates from hastily constructed Siberian refineries. What was sacrificed? Crew comfort, a cramped two-man turret forcing commanders to perform 4 roles simultaneously, optics inferior to German sights, no radios on most early models, and a gearbox so brutal that crews hammered the shift levers during combat maneuvers. Operation Barbarossa forced complete factory evacuation beginning June 1941. Dismantled Kharkov locomotive factory. Machinery traveled 2,000 kilometers eastward on 8,000 railway flat cars to Chelyabinsk in the Urals, merging with the Kirov tank plant from Leningrad and production facilities from Stalingrad into a single complex dubbed Tankograd by its workers. Kharkov factory. Number 183 alone turned out on the order of 1,000 T-34s in the months before its evacuation, then resumed production at Nizhny Tagil within 6 weeks. Workers assembled T-34s in unheated facilities at -40 degrees during the winter of 1941-42, welding armor plates while production lines operated 24 hours daily in 3 shifts. By 1943-44, Tankograd was rolling out several dozen T-34s per day, with labor time per tank cut to only a few thousand man-hours, roughly half the effort of early war production. Factory engineers eliminated everything non-essential. Rubber return rollers became steel, internal fuel tank bladders disappeared, precision gears gave way to brute force straight cuts, turret casting replaced. Welded construction, reducing assembly time by 40%. Welding quality was so rough that German intelligence initially believed the tanks were disposable, built to last 1 or 2 engagements. They were half right. The Soviets didn't care if a tank lasted a year. They cared if it lasted long enough. The T-34 transformed from precision weapon to mass-produced instrument, trading crew comfort and mechanical refinement for quantity measured in thousands monthly. A knocked-out T-34 could be dragged to a field depot and returned to service in hours. A Tiger needed a specialized recovery vehicle and a railway flat car to reach a proper workshop. By 1943, the design had one glaring weakness, and the Germans were exploiting it. North of Kursk in July 1943, a T-34 commander spotted a Tiger emerging from tree cover at 800 meters. The Soviet crew fired. The 76mm shell bounced off the German tank's frontal armor. The commander tried to direct his gunner while scanning for threats, loading ammunition, and coordinating with his driver. 4 critical tasks simultaneously in a 2-man turret. The Tiger's 88mm gun fired once. The engagement lasted 17 seconds. Soviet ballistic tests confirmed the 76mm gun could not penetrate the Tiger's frontal armor beyond 300 meters. Stalin approved an emergency upgrade on December 15, 1943. The solution? Enlarge the turret ring to fit a 3-man crew and mount an 85mm gun that could penetrate 102mm of armor at 500 meters, sufficient to defeat Tiger frontal armor at combat range. Not parity, but enough. 1 gunner, 1 loader, 1 commander directing tactical operations without physical distraction. Everything below the turret stayed identical to vehicles already flooding from factories. From Stalin's approval to frontline deployment, 5 months. German engineers spent 14 months trying to fix the Panther's transmission without success. Production numbers tell the story. Roughly 12,500 Soviet. Medium tanks in 1942, about 15,800 in 1943, approximately 14,600 in 1944. The decrease masking the reality that each 1944 vehicle carried 40% more firepower. Operation Bagration opened on June 23, 1944, with over 5,000 Soviet tanks smashing into Army Group Center across a 450-mile front. Within 8 weeks, on the order of 24 German divisions ceased to exist. Several 100,000 casualties, losses that surpassed Stalingrad. The T-34's wide tracks traversed the Pripyat marshes, while Panthers and Tigers foundered in terrain their narrower treads couldn't navigate. Soviet tank armies advanced 450 miles in 60 days. Even if we accept optimistic German claims of 5-to-1 kill ratios, the arithmetic guaranteed Wehrmacht collapse. Kill 5 T-34s, 6 more appeared. Germany manufactured 1,347 Tigers and approximately 6,000 Panthers across the entire war. Total T-34 production reached about 57,000 during the war itself, over 80,000 including post-war. Guderian had warned Berlin on November 25, 1941, that the T-34 and KV-1 created a situation of complete superiority for the enemy. His recommendation for immediate production increases went unheeded for 18 months while Soviet output accelerated. The Eastern Front demanded operational mathematics, thousands of tanks distributed across continental distances, replaceable faster than they could be destroyed, maintainable by conscript crews with minimal technical training. The front line stretched 1,800 miles from the Baltic to the Black Sea. Germany pursued tactical perfection. The war demanded industrial scale. By 1944, General Friedrich von Mellenthin reached his bitter conclusion. The T-34 was the most effective tank in the field, not through superior engineering, but through adequate firepower and armor, combined with limitless numbers. Soviet post-war figures indicate the scale. For every German heavy tank that rolled off assembly lines, the Soviets produced roughly 12 T-34s. German tankers called the T-34 Mickey Mouse early in the war, mocking the shape of its twin turret hatches. By 1944, nobody was laughing. What Guderian's crews discovered at Mentsensk in October 1941, armor that ricocheted their shells and mobility that outmaneuvered their tactics, became the instrument that destroyed Army Group Center and rolled into Berlin. After the war, the T-34 didn't retire. It fought in Korea, in Vietnam, in the Six-Day War, in Angola, in Bosnia. In 1995, 50 years after Berlin fell, T-34s were still killing. As of this recording, a handful remain in active reserve in countries that can't afford anything else. And that's the final irony. Germany built the Tiger to be immortal, a machine so perfect it would dominate any battlefield. They built 1,347. The Soviets built a tank that was crude, cramped, and disposable. They built tens of thousands during the war, over 80,000 across all production. The Tiger is a museum piece. The T-34 is still at war. Perfection is a luxury. Adequacy, multiplied by a nation that refused to die, is a weapon. If you enjoyed this, hit subscribe for more World War II deep dives every week. Thanks for watching.